She said it so casually that I almost laughed. But something in her eyes stopped me. It was a rainy Thursday evening, and the cafe windows were covered with tiny droplets that blurred the city lights outside. The smell of coffee filled the air, warm and comforting, but suddenly none of that mattered anymore. My heart froze in a way I couldn't explain. I had just joked, smiling like I always did, "At this rate, you'll never get married." She looked at me. Not angry. Not embarrassed. Just quiet, painfully quiet. Then she gave the smallest smile and said the words that would completely change my life. "What if it's you?" Before we begin, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of love that grows in silence, please take a moment to like this video, comment your thoughts, share it with someone special, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps bring stories like this to life. I wish I could tell you I answered her right away. I didn't. Because for the first time in 10 years, I had no words. Her name was Mira. She had been my best friend since college. 10 years of birthdays, heartbreaks, late-night calls, hospital visits, job failures, promotions, bad decisions, and quiet victories. 10 years of being the first person we called whenever life fell apart. And somehow, in all those years, I never saw it. Or maybe I refused to see it. Mira was the kind of person people trusted immediately. She had a softness that made even broken people feel safe. She listened like every word mattered. She remembered small things, how I hated coriander, how I always got nervous before important meetings, how I pretended I was fine whenever I wasn't. She noticed everything. Except one thing. How blind I was. After she said those words in the cafe, silence settled between us like a storm cloud. I forced out a laugh. I told myself she was joking. But deep inside, I knew. She wasn't. She paid for her coffee, stood up, grabbed her umbrella, and before leaving, she looked at me one last time. There was no drama. No tears. Just exhaustion. The exhaustion of someone who had carried feelings alone for too long. And then she left. I sat there for nearly an hour. The same sentence kept replaying. What if it's you? I drove home in heavy rain. But my mind was somewhere else. Every memory with her began resurfacing like pieces of a puzzle I should have solved years ago. The time I got rejected from my dream job and locked myself inside my apartment for 3 days, she was the only one who showed up with food and refused to leave. The night my father had a heart attack, she stayed at the hospital all night while relatives made excuses. When my engagement broke 3 years ago and everyone told me to move on, she simply sat beside me in silence and let me grieve. She had always been there. Always. And suddenly a terrifying thought entered my mind. What if she loved me through all of it? And what if I was too selfish to notice? Sleep didn't come that night. Or the next. I wanted to call her. But what would I say? Sorry. Thank you. I love you too. I didn't even know what I felt. Or maybe I was afraid to know. For years, I had placed Mira in a safe category. Best friend. Permanent. Unshakable. Someone who would always be there. I never stopped to ask if that was fair. Days passed. Then weeks. She stopped calling. Stopped texting. And for the first time in a decade, there was silence. No good morning. No random memes. No, did you eat? Nothing. That silence hurt more than I expected. At first, I told myself this was temporary. She needed space. But slowly, something inside me started breaking. I began reaching for my phone whenever something happened. A funny moment at work. Bad news. Good news. I wanted to tell her everything. And every time, reality hit. She wasn't there. That's when I understood something terrifying. I hadn't just lost a friend. I was losing the center of my emotional world. Months later, I heard from a mutual friend that Mira had accepted a job in another city. She was leaving. In 2 days. My chest tightened. I tried to act normal. Tried to be rational. She deserved happiness. She deserved peace. But all logic collapsed under one brutal truth. I couldn't imagine life without her. That evening, I sat alone in my apartment. And then I noticed something. A box. Old letters and cards from friends. I opened it absent-mindedly. Birthday cards. Notes. Photos. Then I found one card from Mira. From 7 years ago. I opened it. Inside, she had written. Thank you for existing. Some people become home without realizing it. I stopped breathing. Home. She had told me everything. Not once. Not twice. For years. In tiny ways. And I never listened. That night I cried. Not because I was sad. Because I finally saw the truth. I loved her. Not suddenly. Not because she was leaving. I had loved her for years. I just buried it under comfort, routine, and fear. Because loving her meant risking everything. Our friendship. Our history. Our safe place. But losing her? That felt worse than any risk. The next morning, I drove 6 hours to her city. No plan. No speech. Just panic and hope. Traffic was unbearable. Rain returned. Roads flooded. Every delay felt cruel. I kept imagining reaching too late. What if she had already left? What if someone else was waiting for her future? What if I had wasted too much time? By the time I reached her apartment, I was soaked, exhausted, and shaking. Her door was half open. Boxes everywhere. She turned. And froze. We stared at each other. Neither moved. I could hear my own heartbeat. She looked tired. But beautiful. Painfully beautiful. I finally spoke. I'm sorry. She said nothing. I stepped closer. I'm sorry it took me this long. Still silence. My voice broke. I thought I came here to give you closure, but the truth is, I came because I can't breathe without you in my life. Her expression shifted. But she stayed quiet. I continued. Words poured out like floodwater. I kept calling you my best friend because it felt safe. Because if I admitted what you really meant to me, everything would change. And I was scared. My eyes burned. But everything changed anyway when you left. She looked down. I took another step. When something good happens, I want to tell you first. I swallowed hard. When life hurts, I look for you. My voice shook. When I imagine home, I see you. Tears filled her eyes. Mine too. And then I said the words I should have said years ago. I love you, Mira. She covered her mouth. Crying now. Not dramatically. Just quietly. Like someone who had spent too many nights holding pain alone. I kept speaking. I don't know what kind of husband I'll be. I laughed weakly through tears. I leave wet towels on beds. I overwork. I forget lunch. A tiny smile appeared on her face. But I know this. I looked directly into her eyes. I want every ordinary day with you. Silence. Then one tear rolled down her cheek. She whispered something so soft I almost missed it. You're late. My heart sank. Then she walked toward me. One step. Then another. Until she stood right in front of me. And she placed her hand on my chest. Right over my heart. But not too late. I broke. Completely. Years of unspoken feelings, fear, regret, and longing collapsed in one moment. I held her like I was holding home itself. And for the first time in my life, everything felt right. If this story is touching your heart, please comment below. True love waits. I'd love to know how many of you still believe in love that survives time, fear, and silence. Life after that wasn't magical perfection. It was real. Messy. Human. We fought over stupid things. She hated how messy I was. I hated how she stole my fries. She overthought everything. I bottled emotions. But something changed. We stopped assuming. We started speaking. Honestly. Vulnerably. That saved us. A year later, I took her back to that same cafe. Same table. Same rain against the windows. She smiled immediately. You planned this. I nodded. Then I reached into my pocket. Her eyes widened. I got down on one knee. Not because movies told me to. Because gratitude brought me there. Because this woman loved me before I knew how to love myself. Because she stayed. Because she dared to tell the truth. My voice trembled. That day you asked, "What if it's you?" Tears filled her eyes. I smiled. I finally have an answer. I opened the ring box. Yes. She cried. I cried. Half the cafe cried. And she said yes. Years later, people still ask when I knew she was the one. I tell them the truth. Love rarely arrives like lightning. Sometimes. It arrives like sunrise. Quiet. Patient. Almost invisible. Until suddenly, you realize it has been lighting your world all along. Before this story ends, if it touched your heart even a little, please like this video, comment, share it with someone you love, and subscribe to the channel. Your support means everything and helps us continue sharing stories that matter. And remember this. Sometimes the person you're searching for everywhere is the one who has been standing beside you all along. Don't wait until silence teaches you their value. Listen. Notice. Be brave. Because love doesn't always need perfect timing. Sometimes. It only needs honesty. And one brave question. What if it's you? The answer might change your life forever.